Hey, look who it is. It's your man's Nic Rattlehead. And who do I have behind that camera? Come on, bro. Like, I need help. Hey, Matt, what? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have to deal with. I am so glad to introduce you to Aftershock Reviews, your place for great music reviews. And Matt, so full transparency, we tried to record this earlier and I was terrible. So this is my second shot. This is the shot to redeem myself because this album is so intricate and it is so multi-dimensional that I was not happy with the original. So here it is, bear with me. This is now the review for Lingua Ignota's album, Caligula. Oh, Matt's favorite album, by the way. This is from California native Kristen Hayter, going by her stage name, Lingua Ignota. This is her third album under that stage name. And honestly, it's my first introduction to her. I had heard, well, let me take that back. I had heard her on Full of Hell's song, Armory of Obsidian Glass, and my introduction to her. So the previous two albums, I had no idea they even existed. But once I heard her vocals just wailing away in the background of that song, I was completely and totally enthralled with her, and I needed to find out who she was. So this is my introduction to her. And Matt, what a doozy of an introduction this is. So for full context also when it comes to her album, she is somebody who has survived domestic abuse. Apparently she had covered it before on her previous album as well. And this is something that kind of delves even further into that. So with that type of thing in mind when you're listening to the album, it makes a lot of sense because she even said in an interview that she sees this collection of songs, this narrative, as survivor songs. And when you're a woman and you go through domestic abuse, they start talking about like how you need to forgive the man and move on and learn to live with it and use it for other things. And part of me gets that, but I think I also like the fact that she's not negating the fact that, hey, as somebody who is suffering physical, mental, spiritual abuse, right? Like you feel so low that a little bitty ant can't crawl under you. You see what I mean? Like you feel like you want vengeance, to use the aggression and the violence that was bestowed upon you, morph into it and then bring it back on them twofold. You see what I mean? So for me, this album is honest in that way, and I really do respect it for that. So getting into the track listings, Faithful Servant, Friend of Christ is the track that opens this album up. And Matt, I kid you not, it's beautiful really, because it has all of these floating cellos and violins that are just moving so seamlessly and beautifully throughout the track as her operatic voice, which is actually classically trained, by the way, is just, at first it kind of lightly floats up on it and then it starts to pierce the instrumentation. You see what I mean? And she starts wailing away in this almost religious-like presentation of this song. Now, keep in mind when I say religious-like, because there are a lot of religious imagery in this music because she's also somebody who comes from a Catholic background. She ended up becoming atheist some point in her life, but she does respect the music. She does respect a lot of the instrumentation, and it finds themselves introduced here in this album because apparently previously with the previous album, that was a lot more industrial. This one is not. This one has a lot more of real instrumentations, things that feel way more grand, like timpanis, and like I said, the pre-mentioned cello and things of that nature, so which makes it a very organic and a very confrontational listen because we get right into Do You Doubt Me Now, Traitor? And it's only the second track, keep that in mind. This is probably the most important track on this album. And the reason I say that is because when you start to look at notes and what she says about this song in particular, like this is the one where it's like it has multiple movements and it's saying a lot of different things, but there's one part in particular near the end where you have these pulses, right? Like these big bass pulses that happen as like, it's almost like this cultish chorus is singing, which is really Kristen Hayter or Lingua Ignota's vocals just layered on top of each other, creating a harmony. And what happens with that is they start saying all these different things and it's it's so dark, it's so confrontational, and a lot of the language is so blunt, and it's almost purposefully offensive. You see what I mean? Reclaiming a lot of the terminology used against women and turning it on its head, right? Like how sometimes like black people say like nigga, you know what I mean? Like we'll say that, you know what I mean? But it's like we don't mean it with the hard ER, you know what I mean? Like it's us reclaiming that, you see what I mean? Now, can't say that I too agree with the use of it all the time, but I think it's her kind of doing something similar where it's like, these are stereotypes, these are words that are meant to harm us, to degrade us. I'm taking these words and I'm flipping them on its head and making you think about them differently, right? I can't repeat some of the language she's saying, but it is very, very confrontational. And that might be the word for this review, confrontational, because that's exactly what this album is. But the way that it goes through being very close up and in your face as she says, how do you doubt me now? How do you doubt me? As she then becomes even more hurt, as she wallows in her depression, as she wallows in the pain that has been inflicted upon her, as she invokes otherworldly powers to try to gather some type of strength. And then as that goes, she almost goes and just completely loses her mind, and she screams, how can I break you before you break me, right? And when you keep in mind the fact that she is a survivor of domestic abuse, and for me, it's a situation where like, yet again, music paints a vivid picture in my mind, like somebody probably like beating her, and in the back of her mind, she's thinking about like, how can I get him before he does this again to me, right? And let me go back to the aforementioned interview before, where she says at the end of the movie with the big bass pulses, she says like, those bring back memories to her of when the cops were coming. And the bass pulses almost represents the blue and the red lights flashing as she's almost like holding herself, thinking to herself, it's almost like vengeance is on her mind. Like, how do I break him again before he breaks me? As she's trying to like gather the pieces of herself, maybe mentally and physically. So this is a very, very pivotal piece of the album, which to me also feels like the rest of the tracks that follow this are almost like the ramifications of what happened that night. You see what I mean? Because now, because she has had that type of abuse inflicted upon her, and now she's embraced that darkness, and now she's about to pour it back on her abusers, upon her enemies, right? You have now Butcher of the World that follows that, which is the first single from this album, it's third track. And Matt, I kid you not, she opens the track up and she says, I am the effing death dealer. That's a completely different tone from Friendly Servant, Friend of Christ. It's a completely different tone in almost like the heartbroken, betrayed vocals of how can you doubt me now? She's like, no. She's standing straight up. That darkness that beat her down, and she now controls. And she says, I'm the effing death dealer. I am the butcher of the world. Like now, you about to catch all of this smoke. Every last single bit of this I'm about to pour upon you. If you don't fear me, you will. I was like, yo, part of me enjoys seeing somebody who has been victimized turn that around and make it a strength and then pour it back out on somebody else. Now, I don't always advocate vengeance or revenge. Actually, I don't advocate it at all, but I do understand it. I do understand the sentiments behind it. I do understand that natural progression of you're not getting what I believe you deserve. You see what I mean? Because also in her situation, she would try to vent to people and tell them what was going on, but nobody believed her because her abuser was a well-respected person in the scene in which she was in, right? So nobody ever took her pleas or took her story to heart, really. So she takes that, becomes the butcher of the world, and now on top of that, as she's saying this, you have almost this Roman Catholic instrumentation behind her, complete with trumpets, pipe organs, timpanis, percussion, and things of that nature that makes this a very huge, a very regal affair. And she goes from these death metal screams, not even death metal, pardon me, these black metal screams. And then it starts out huge, and then it becomes small. As she's like saying almost these curses upon him, like, may your days be few, may your enemies be, like, it's insane. Like, because as small as she sounds, as whimpering as she sounds, you would think that she would be wallowing in it. She's not. She's just like, yo, You did me wrong. So may every foul thing come upon you. It's almost like she's like hoping for some type of justice. You see what I mean? So it goes from butcher of the world, and then it goes to may failure be your noose. And it comes out with this nice moving piano passage. And she says, who will love you if I don't? Who will F you if I won't? And to me, it's almost like her abuser is saying that to her. And I'm not saying that's what she was trying to illustrate. I'm just saying it from what I was listening to this song and what I was gathering as a mental image. It's almost like he's mentally abusing her at this point, right? Saying like, yo, Kristen, who will love you if I won't? Like, where you gonna go? You know what I mean? Like who, because when you think of sex and things of that nature, you're talking about like trying to satisfy your partner. You know what I mean? Trying to make them feel good about themselves. Like, because for me, I think it's a physical expression of how much you love that person. Things that you can't make words for, you can make it as an action, right? So if anything, he's polluting that act of love upon her. He's like, who will satisfy you if I won't? You see what I mean? Like in terms, I think that's what he's trying to say. And it's foul, it's heartbreaking, really. And then she takes, I don't know if it's her saying it to him or him saying it to her, but he's like, may failure be a noose to wrap around you. May failure be a belt to which to gird you, and things of that nature. It sounds moving, and but it's so heartbreaking. And then on top of that, she starts saying with this another piano passage, which is very skeletal, as it's almost like a staccato type of thing where she's saying, everything burns down around me. Everything burns down. And then it's kind of like tapers away, and then it explodes in the most grand way possible, where it almost seems like a choir is now introduced, yet again, keeping with the religious imagery. And then she says it so confidently, everything burns down around me, where it seems like it's this black mass, and now fire is coming into the mix, and the choir is singing behind her, and she is the high priestess. For me, it's like, this is a situation where this is what led to the monster you see now. You see what I mean? Like, this is why I am this way. And this is why you must cease to exist. It's dark, it's cautionary. Like, watch how you treat people. You see what I mean? Everybody deserves to be treated with love and respect. But when you don't do that, every action has an equal reaction. Like, everything happens. So she's like, you did me wrong? Cool, run it. You beat me, you cursed at me while I prayed for you, cool, run it. I'm going to now rain down upon you. And when you go from that song into, which to me, it's my favorite song, Fragrant is my many flowered crown. And I think aside from the moving, almost beautiful piano passages and the vocal harmonies and the way that the chords are arranged, it's beautiful, man, it really is. She says one thing, and she starts it out where she says, God alone knows my sorrows. And even me, as somebody who, to God be the glory, I have not had to be a victim of that type of abuse, right? But everybody goes through something. Everybody's got a story. You see what I mean? And everybody feels it at some point. I think it's great that she kind of vocalized it that way, where it's like, he may not know, but God knows what I'm going through right now. And it sucks. You know what I mean? Like, she's not trying to offer you an answer, but she's just saying, bro, stinks. Out loud. And the thing about it is, as morbidly beautiful as that line is, she actually got it from a suicide note. Don't know whose note it was, don't know what became of this man, like, you know, how he killed himself or whatever else like that, but she got it from that. To me, it's one of the lines that really sticks out to me as she repeats it through the rest of the songs on top of this album. But Fragrant is my many flowered crowns is one of those tracks from this album where I was just like, yo, this is, it's beautiful. It shouldn't be this beautiful, but it is, which actually even brings me to the album artwork, because it's like, it's a picture of her and it's like a white background, and clearly when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a very pretty girl on an album cover with some cool tattoo art across her chest. But you look closer and you're like, oh wait, past all of the necklaces, you'll see like bruises, and it's almost like she's bleeding. And then you look at her lips, there's a bruise on her lips. So she was abused. Like somebody tried to beat her senseless. You see what I mean? So it's just kind of like polluted, perverted, marred beauty. You see what I mean? And I think that transposes itself to a lot of the tracks from this album. And I think Like there are other highlights as well, such as if the poison won't take you, my dogs will, which is almost like, it's not even almost, she makes references to Eileen Wuornos, who was the prostitute serial killer, who was abused in early age, and then she turned on men, and then she started killing men and things of that nature. And you'll hear her even on that track say, and I think it's in Italian, God have mercy. I'm not trying to say it in Italian because I can't speak it, so I would butcher that, and I'm not going to do it. But yet again, that's one of those situations where it kind of has that nice soft to loud, back to soft, back to loud type of situations, which will repeat itself through multiple times in this album. There are plenty of jump scares, and so far as like the track Sorrow, 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 or Spite Alone Holds Me Aloft. Matt, if I had one critique for this album, I wish it was that Spite Alone Holds Me Aloft ended it, because it's dag nabbit. I know I Am the Beast is the one after Effing Death Dealer. That's the closing segment for this album, but Spite Alone Holds Me Aloft is one of the situations where she takes that whole dynamic that she has created and she just expands it. She just expands it, and she says, all those who express their love betray me, betray me. Those who express their love, they hate me. And then it has this lyric that says, and I'm gonna have to read this out for you. All those who proclaim their love, let them hate me so long as they fear me. So this is the only line in the entire album that actually lends itself to the actual Roman emperor, the evil one, Caligula, where this album kind of gets its name from. And that's the only quote that actually refers to him. Matt, this is a masterful album. So far as the vocal performances is concerned, where she contorts her voice to make it sound very masculine and then almost beastly like. So it's never pretty. Like her vocals are very rarely ever pretty in this album. Agonized, yes. Stark, yes. Pretty, no. It's a very masterful way in which she orchestrates a lot of the instrumentation. So what I will say is this. I thoroughly enjoyed this album. There are going to be some people who freaking hate it the moment the second track comes in. They'll hate this album the moment that starts up. And I kind of know some people in the room. We won't mention any names. But it's one of those type of albums. But I think I like it because of that. It's like, to me, it's like salt, right, Matt? Where it's just like salt has a distinct taste, right? So if you eat salt, like some people are going to be like, bleh! Get this out of my mouth, you know what I mean? And then there are some people who are like, oh, okay, cool. Well, this is this type of salt, and this is where you got it from. You should probably use this type of salt. You see what I mean? Like, some people love it, some people hate it, but it's very distinct in that way. And I like this album because of that. I like this album's bravery in order to do that. So the name of the album, again, is called Caligula by Lingua Ignota. You can actually see by my lips, I'm trying to make sure I pronounce this right. Check this out, it's on Profound Lore Records. Coming soon, we're also trying to review the new Tomb Mode album, Planetary Clairvoyance. Yo, boy, is hyped for that because I love the Manner of Infinite Forms. But until that blessed day, I am your man's Nic Rattlehead. And who is that behind the camera?
Matt the Graff.
Matt the Graff. Where you guys, man? Where your guys, man? We're your guys. Don't forget to leave us a comment in this comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe this video. Hit the little bell as well to make sure you're notified whenever we drop a new review. And until then, bye, friends. Did you see my N64? It's a nice shirt, right?
I couldn't tell. It's pretty subtle.
It's got a big green N. What are you talking about? Oh, it's a joke.